Until now nobody has been able to determine this, but you effortlessly draw this out of me. You are very much more advanced in your development than I had gathered. I live here in a world which is the distant past for you, but which signifies the present for me. Truly, your evolution is about 2,000 years further advanced from my time, which I did not take into account. It is therefore not fitting that I converse with you in the same way that I do with my contemporaries. Truly, I had not considered this. In your entire development, you are about 2 millennia ahead of my time and are correspondingly further developed. Furthermore, I know, truly, that you are very continuously instructed and have attained a very high level in spiritual values. Truly, I had not considered all that. Therefore it shall be an honor for me to answer your questions, at your discretion. Edward says, sincere thanks, Jmmanuel. It is not my intention to instruct you somehow. I only thought that a direct questioning is perhaps better because I have ascertained the aforementioned things. Jmmanuel says, truly, what you say is honest. I will answer your questions for you. Edward says, thank you. As I know from you, you know very many things up into the very distant future. Thereby you must also be orientated about what will be made out of your person. You have indeed also already explained that in a circumscribed form. But I have fully understood your explanations, because I do know the New Testament, which allegedly contains your teaching. But for a short time now I have known that the allegedly handed down teaching is only an evil falsification and only corresponds to the actual truth in very few things. Not at all to mention, thereby, regarding your own person, who has been pressed into a form of a god and a form of creation and who is proclaimed as the Redeemer of earth humanity. You sit before me and I see that you are precisely as much a human as is Asket here, as is Jitschi over there, and your brothers and students, who, in our time are called disciples. Now I wonder how it has come about that no direct documentation of your teaching has been handed down, because, to my knowledge, the first words of the New Testament which exists in my time were written only around 200 years after your alleged death on the cross. Do you not write down any facts at all of your teaching, in such a way that they can be kept for posterity? Jmmanuel says, truly, your question is very precisely directed. Consider, my time is about 2 millennia before yours, and in this time only certain forms of society are literate. On account of my mission, I did also learn writing and reading, yet I have insufficient time to write down my teaching. And if I speak of my teaching, truly, then I thereby name the teaching of all great ages, the teaching of the Spirit and the teaching of the laws and recommendations of creation, which are eternally imperishable. I learnt it in a similar way to you and furthermore spent long years in the distant land of Kush, note from Billy, today part of North India, where I was permitted to experience further learning. So the teaching is indeed preached by me, yet it is truly not originally from me. Truly, your question is, however, warranted. I fully know the false and wrong teachings of the future about my true teachings and about my person, but no practical steps are planned to change these coming misleading events, because the mass of erring and falsifying humans is too great to be able to influence them even on a small scale. This will unfortunately lead to a false teaching of much longer than 3,000 years, and to very much need, pain, hate, misery and bloodshed. Truly, in spite of that, however, the truth will not be lost, because it will, in a safe place, remain transmitted and also outlast the time, in the written form. Among my followers, I have a literate man named Judas Iscariot, who writes down the most important parts of the teaching and events, which later, well preserved, shall outlast the time in order to hand down the actual truth to posterity. With the help of an ex-priest, these texts will be found by you, in your time, in Jerusalem, and you will spread them again, true to their meaning, and make them accessible to the humans. But your time is still not ripe enough for that, and only in little more than 2 decades, in your own time, will the seed of truth find a little fertile ground. Edward says, that is good. You therefore mean that your teaching really remains preserved, and then it will also be found by me somewhere. Jmmanuel says, truly, that is what I am saying. Already the texts are being sought now in order to destroy them and to use them as indictments against me. One scroll has already been stolen from the writer and kept closed by the Pharisees and the scribes. Judah Iscariot, the son of a Pharisee, secretly took it out of Judas Iscariot's bag in order to sell it to my persecutors for 70 pieces of silver, in order, thereby, to be able to charge me with blasphemy against God. But Judas Iscariot had been ordered by me to write the text once again and now to keep it quite safe, whereby its purpose will outlast the ages. Edward says, you speak of Judas Iscariot, who is supposed to be your betrayer, as the texts of my time still convey, nonetheless falsified. Jmmanuel says, truly, I speak of him. But he will in no way be the guilty one. He who will hand me over to the persecutors is the same one who stole the texts and sold them. Edward says, therefore Judah Iscariot. Jmmanuel says, so is it. But his father will spread a lie that Judas Iscariot is the betrayer, because the Pharisee named Iscariot must not be soiled. But the reason is also based on the fact that the priests, scribes and Pharisees and their followers can say, behold, one from his own ranks has betrayed him and handed him over to death on the cross. Behold, behold. How can his teaching be truth if his own people betray him and sell him? Edward says, so that is the way it is. Now I understand quite a bit more. But now I ask myself, who then really hanged himself in Potter's Field, respectively? Who will hang himself there in the coming time? Jmmanuel says, Judah Iscariot. Edward says, oh, that is how it is. But now something else. I am here 2,000 years in the past. What do you think will happen should this fact be made known in my time? Jmmanuel says, truly, it will come to pass that you will be accused of lying. Many will accuse you of blaspheming against God and presuming that you, of all people, could come into contact with me. However, do not concern yourself about this, because, were it another, they would say the same thing about him. Truly, you have seen too, and learnt, very much in your life up to this point, and you have also traveled back into the time of Moses, where you have encountered many truths. From these truths, however, grows in you the required strength to confront the hostility. Truly, several from your own ranks will accuse you of dishonesty when they learn of your association with me. But their accusations will truly only result because they will still be completely lacking in judgment and are not able to recognize the truth. Their thinking will still be trapped in worldly forms and their knowledge will be very unclear and small.